Imagine going to the doctor and learning that your job has caused you to develop an incurable lung disease, or turning on your kitchen sink only to realize that your tap water has become bubbly and flammable. As a result of fracking, a method for drilling oil and natural gas, millions of people live or work in areas where these instances are possible. I enjoy spending time outside, whether it's kayaking, hiking, or taking simple walks. The fracking process has many negative consequences that harm the environment, and as a person who loves the outdoors, I am trying to advocate for a safer alternative to fracking. I also have family who lives on the coast of North Carolina where offshore drilling has been proposed. Today, I will tell you more about the problems associated with fracking, the causes, and possible solutions to this major problem. Let's first discuss the problem of fracking. Fracking is a major problem in the United States. It negatively impacts the environment, specifically causing air pollution and water pollution. It also uses an extremely large amount of water, directly impacting areas surrounding fracking wells. The fracking process is also causing health problems. This includes pregnancy-related health issues, silicosis, which is an incurable lung disease, and elevated asthma symptoms. To fully understand this problem, it is helpful to determine the causes of the problem. The impacts that fracking has are mostly caused by the fracking process itself and the chemicals released from fracking wells. The first cause is related to the chemicals that are used during the fracking process. Fracking affects the air, water, and soil of areas surrounding fracking wells. In this speech, we'll focus on the environmental effects that fracking has on the air and water. During the fracking process, some of the chemicals used are released back into the atmosphere. One of the primary chemicals released is methane. Methane excels at trapping heat, which means that the release of this gas is not good for the air quality of nearby areas and generally poor for the environment. Melissa Horton says that about 4% of methane used in the fracking process escapes back into the environment. The amount of methane released during fracking is actually equivalent to the carbon emissions of 1 to 3 million cars, according to Joe Hoffman. Fracking wells also increase the number of pollutants in the air, which decreases available clean air for workers and residents. Another issue that is related to the fracking process is the amount of water used. In her book, Fracking, Ann Cunningham says that the average fracking well uses anywhere between 2 and 20 million gallons of water to function normally, and another 25% of the initial amount during the extraction process. The large amount of water used in the fracking process directly impacts the amount of clean water available for residents living near fracking wells. In these areas, water contamination is also extremely high, since chemicals used in the fracking process are often tend to leak back into local water supplies. This contaminated water is often referred to wastewater. This water cannot be easily treated and as a result is commonly released back into the environment unclean. In fact, between 20 and 40% of water used in fracking is returned to the ground still containing toxic chemicals. Cunningham says that residents near fracking wells have also reported that their tap water has turned bubbly and flammable as a result of increased methane levels. The second cause is related to the chemicals released by fracking wells and the machinery used during the process. In the United States, 15.3 million people live within a mile of a fracking well, and while this might provide employment opportunities for some families, it can also negatively impact their health. When fracking wells release methane, they are also releasing chemicals like benzene, ethylbenzene, toluene, and N-hexane. According to Mark Lolanina, in his article, Facts About Fracking, long-term exposure to these compounds can cause birth defects, neurological problems, blood disorders, and even cancer. In a study done by Jessinger Clinic and Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, they found that out of 11,000 women with newborns, 40% had an increased rate of having a premature baby and 30% risk of having a high-risk pregnancy. This shows that fracking is not only affecting current generations but also the future of the country. At fracking wells, there are often trucks and heavy machinery constantly driving around the plantations and stirring up dust, soil, and sand. Often crystalline silica in the form of sand is found near fracking wells and can cause silicosis, an incurable lung disease when inhaled by workers. Joe Hoffman says that in 11 sites across the country, 31% of silica concentration samples were higher than the safe limit, meaning that even if workers wore masks, they would not be protected. Workers are not the only ones being affected either. Residents in areas near fracking wells saw an increase in mild, moderate, and severe cases of asthma, according to studies done by Johns Hopkins University. I realize that this information is a lot to take in at once, but here are a few solutions to this problem. Fracking can be solved by dealing with the major causes. As discussed in this speech, methane leaks are a major concern regarding fracking. Reducing methane leaks will lower the negative impact fracking has on the environment and also help companies save money. Scientists suggest installing infrared cameras near fracking wells in order to detect methane leaks. Another solution would be replacing some machinery to lower the risk of silicosis in employees. OSHA recommends replacing transfer belts with screw augers on sand movers. Moving sand through an auger system rather than a belt will help contain the sand and reduce the dust release. As I conclude, today I told you more about the problems associated with fracking, the causes, and some possible solutions to this major environmental problem. As I've mentioned before, fracking affects millions of people in the United States, maybe even people you may know. Luckily, there are steps that oil companies can take to make fracking cleaner and safer. So I urge you to think about the millions of people at risk due to fracking. What can you do to help them? You can start by educating yourself, your family, and friends on the dangers of fracking. You can also voice your concerns to local politicians and urge them to prevent fracking in your area. Together, we can keep the environment clean and free of pollutants.